but
Be
we
great.
are going live. I have to make sure that it's on silent. I forgot to do that. Hey, it's Celeste here from the Whole Orange, and I am doing my very first Facebook Live. So you're gonna have to bear with me, friends, as I get myself around this and understand exactly what I'm doing. I have been practicing and thinking it through for the last few weeks, and here I am doing it, and I can't wait to yeah, just get right into it. So I'm just gonna make sure that I'm on mute while we're doing this. If we get any feedback, I'll fix that. But I'd love to introduce you to my good friend. Her name is Amber, and she is from Coworking Rodden. Is that right? Did I sound
That's
right?
fantastic. You did a great job. Good job.
Thank you. And she's based in Quebec, Canada. And that's on our French side of Canada, if you don't know. So most of you are Canadian, I imagine, but I know that there might be a few people out there who are from all over the world. And it's so great to do this live. So I'm rambling, so I'll stop now and I'll just ask Amber to introduce herself and tell us all about herself a little bit more.
Sure. So, well, first of all, I want to thank you so much for inviting me. I mean, it's such a privilege that I get to talk to other co-working people. I love it. I absolutely love it. I love this format and everything else. And hello to everybody on Facebook. And, you know, you're probably surprised. Wow, the French girl can talk English. Yes, actually. That's a misconception. There's about 13% of the population in Quebec that are English first language. So my ancestors been here for many, many years. I didn't come from another province and come over or whatever. So I've been here forever. About me, I'm in Rodden, Quebec, which is a rural town. So we're about an hour and 15 northeast of Montreal. Yeah, and I love it here. You know.
Did you grow up in Rodden?
Actually, I did. Well, yes and no. I was born in Montreal. We lived in Châteauguay for a while. And when I hit grade 2, my parents decided that they wanted to live in the country. And the house that I grew up in is the house that my grandfather, my mother's father, built.
Wow.
Yeah. So when her mom was selling the house, my mom was like, I want the house. So, so in grade 2, I moved to Rodden, and then I've just grown up here the whole time.
Oh, that's so wonderful. I mean, I went to Montreal a couple times, and as an adult, I only went once, but I loved it. And Montreal is a really special place. In fact, I don't know if you know this about me, but my mom used to live in Montreal for about 4 years before she migrated to Toronto. So that's a little something.
The world is small. The world is small.
It is. And actually, we met in Toronto, you and I. We met last, when was it, November? Or end of October. End of October.
It may have felt like November because it was cold, but it was October.
It still feels like November. It is freezing. This is not May. It doesn't feel real.
I know the feeling.
Yeah, we met at the Juicy conference, and Juicy is the Global Co-working Conference, I think it is. And they hosted the one in Canada, and we both met at that Toronto conference. It was a lot of fun. It was about 4 days, I think, altogether. Yeah. And I just remember my biggest highlight from this, just a fun thing that I remember about you, is when we had that speaker cube. Do you remember that speaker cube that we had to throw to each other to do the talking? And you had so much fun with it. I was like so nervous to stand up and talk, but you were holding the cube and you had a real good throw of it. And I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah, I love that thing. I remember thinking, and then I said it, and I was like, oh God. I remember going, who do I get to throw this at now? And I'm like, oh, you shouldn't say that out loud. Like, they're gonna think you're a freak.
No, not at all. Definitely made me remember you and thought, I do have to talk to that lady for sure. And you know, and that's the beautiful thing about co-working, and part of what we're here to talk about today is just the beauty of collaborating and talking with each other. And the whole thing I learned from Juicy and from that conference is all about how the co-working world is around community and collaboration over competition. And that's what's brought us together and other co-working colleagues that we've met who are from all around the world. and in our case, in different provinces and different languages and everything. And yeah, I just wanted to talk a bit about that with you and find out how you got into co-working, what brought you into co-working.
Well, I'm like every other co-working person on the planet, and I thought, I just invented something amazing. We all did it. And we're like, this is a great idea. I've invented something. And then I did some research and I went, okay, this is not new. It's just new for me.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and it was funny, you know, I'll never forget that moment of, I'm not the only one who thought of that. Oh, I'm not the only one who thought of that. That's cool. You know, I come from the nonprofit world. I co-founded 2 nonprofits, and I know the power of that type of organization.
Yes.
And I thought there's got to be something out there that can help not just Mr. and everybody, but like also freelancers and little organizations and even nonprofits and charities, you know. And I remember when I founded my first nonprofit, I was looking for an office. I'm like, okay, there's got to be some place. And I couldn't believe the price. I'm like, well, it's going to work from my house.
Yeah, exactly. That's what a lot of nonprofits end up doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I was like, no, I can't afford it. I'm not gonna do it. So, you know, kind of on the back burner. And when I got to a point where, because every, nonprofit thing that you do, you volunteer for so many years. And after a time, you're like, okay, you know what? I've done what I've come to accomplish and I'm ready to move on and do something else, which is what happened to me. And that void, I was like, what did I learn from that experience and what could I bring to them? And that's when I thought of co-working. Oh, brilliant idea, but it wasn't mine, but
No, I know. It's such a funny thing because they even had that at the GC conference as one of their icebreakers. And I think it was on the icebreaker, it said, did you think you invented co-working? And, you know, that was the most easiest one to find someone else who thought that, because almost everyone in the room felt that way at some point until you discovered, oh, this is a thing. And then you discover like big companies like WeWork, and if you're like, this is a really big thing. You know?
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, I literally fell into it, like many of my projects. I just kind of fell into it. And I just thought, this is a fantastic idea. And it's, you know, kind of invaded my life in a good way, not a bad way. You
Definitely.
know, I've been able to learn so much from Juicy, from Co-working Global Association, from all people that I know in the co-working sphere now. You know, it's incredible to me, the knowledge that's there. Yes. And I love to learn. So I was like, you know what? I can't wait to get this going in my community. And then COVID.
We'll get to COVID, but definitely.
But it just made it pivot, you know, it just made it change, you know, and I was like, okay, so I can't be physical space, but I can do something. So let's try something.
Yes, definitely. And we've been doing a lot more digital work, haven't we? Yeah, you've absolutely been doing a particular digital project recently, haven't you?
Yes, I have. Yeah, it was a Saturday afternoon. It was a beautiful day. I was outside. I was like, what can I do to help my local community? We can't meet, you know, what can I do to help out? And I thought, you know, there's so many different companies out there that we don't know about, little ones. I'm not talking about all the big ones. Everybody knows the big ones, but the little ones that we know they've got to be there, but are they really? And you don't have time to look. And I thought, I'm going to do that. So I decided to call it Spotlight Rodden. Because the idea is to put the spotlight on the different talents that we have in our community. And, you know, I have learned so much. It's been doing it for 2 weeks. I'm on to week 3, you know, and I just was amazed at the amount of talent that is hidden in my town. It was so much fun. And I keep telling people, like, I'll do this for as long, like in my head, it was a 2-week thing. I'll keep going. I'll do this forever if you guys want. It's fun and it's exciting to say we have that. You know, I can say we have a magician in Rodden. I had no idea.
Wow, a magician. That And you're probably thinking, in your small town, you'd probably have to go out to Montreal or the suburbs just to get someone. And there you have one right in Rodden.
Well, exactly, you know, and it's just, it's such an enriching thing to be able to do something that showcases what this town is about.
Definitely.
And that's what co-working is. Co-working is a place to showcase, you know, your town.
Yeah,
So,
your local community, especially for, you know, your co-working space being in a smaller town, it's a really good opportunity to showcase. And like for myself, I live in the Toronto region, but I live in the suburbs. I live in Pickering, and I want to open a co-working space out here in Pickering. And there are lots of co-working spaces in Toronto, especially in the city center, but a lot of them are, you know, they're downtown. And if you live like outside of the downtown core, you don't get access to these fantastic spaces where you can learn a lot, connect with others, and support each other. And I found that I'm always traveling downtown just to get that sense of community and sense of connection. And I thought, well, why isn't there something local, you know? And I thought, well, again, I invented it.
I'll say it, it's incredible.
You know? Why don't we have something like that in Pickering, you know? There's a lot of great talented people out here, and they're all traveling every day for like an hour and a half before COVID.
Yeah.
And originally I thought, oh, I'm definitely going to have them be open to entrepreneurs, freelancers, startups, but as well as the people who are trying to do their side hustle. I know a lot of co-working spaces, they're not really doing the evenings and weekends for their co-working, but I'm hoping to reach that market as well, because I feel that they're an untapped area that don't get the resource and support. And a lot of times they are parents who are trying to start up something, you know, because we're both parents, trying to start up something and just get going. And if you have a full-time job, you don't have the time and the energy to dedicate. So having a co-working space where you can lean into a community to help you get started, help you grow your business and see the potential for it is an amazing thing. And I think that's something we can do as well virtually, just as well as we can do in person, in real life, when we can get back to the real life experiences. So I think I hijacked you for a second there.
Oh no, are you kidding? That's fine. You know, everything you say is exactly, you know, what I feel exactly, you know. I mean, all the studies are out there, you know, the more you invest in your community, in your local community, the more that's going to come back to everybody in the community, even the people who aren't necessarily able to invest in the local community, you know. So I wholeheartedly, yeah, absolutely, man. But I have a question.
Okay.
Because I know where Barrie is. I know where Toronto is.
Yes.
I know where Oakville is. Pickerton.
Okay.
I know Whitby. I know that. When I went to Toronto, I went right by Whitby on the train.
Okay. If you know where Whitby is, Pickering is before Whitby, after Toronto, but before Whitby. Actually, Pickering is bordering Toronto itself. It actually borders Toronto, but it's a small city, and Toronto is a really big city. And what a lot of people don't realize, especially if you're not from Toronto, is that Toronto amalgamated 6 boroughs, and that's why you hear the nickname the Sixth, because it was originally 6 independent regional municipalities. And I actually grew up in one of them called Scarborough, and that's in the far east of Toronto. And it's a really physically it's the biggest physical part of Toronto. And it's also nicknamed Scarborough because people in Toronto felt like it was the wasteland. They felt like it's so far away.
No.
They couldn't contemplate it. And that mentality still happens. And anyone who's from Scarborough can tell you that they've had that sort of idea. When you go downtown and you go to Toronto, people think, oh, you're from Scarborough? That's like the boonies. That's so far away. And it's actually not anymore, because of course the city has grown and Toronto's really a lot more densely populated than it was when I was a child. And people can't afford to live in the city anymore, whether it's in Toronto in the center or in the suburbs in Scarborough. So people are moving further and further out to the outer regions. such as Oakville and even as far as Barrie. And Pickering is very close. So a lot of people have moved to Pickering from Toronto, and there's still not a lot out in Pickering. So Pickering and sort of Whitby, Ajax, Oshawa, that's what they call the Durham region. And it's kind of become, you know, the burbs now. And there's not much services out there. And I just thought, hey, we need to have something out there for people, because they're spending, like, I went from Oshawa one day downtown to one of the co-working spaces downtown that I really love going to. It took me nearly 2 hours to drive there.
Wow.
And that was because, and that was like,
I mean, you probably walk, you'd probably get there faster. It's all the traffic on the 401.
Traffic was atrocious. It was horrible. And I don't even live in Oshawa. I was just in Oshawa for a meeting, wanted to catch a seminar that was going on downtown at this co-working space. And I got in the car and I drove through rain and traffic and everything. Was late, frustrated, tired. And it was just a really great session. And I couldn't even get the full benefit from it because of all the stress of traveling down. Then I still had to get it home. And by the time I got home that night, it was probably about 10 o'clock because I had to battle through traffic and rain. And then, so why can't we have something local that is also dynamic, where we have, because we have so many really great people in our region, in our city, just like you have in Rawdon that you've discovered, your magician. We must have amazing people out here in the Durham and Pickering region as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. See, so I have a question. When you take the train from Montreal to Toronto, because that's what I did, do I pass? Because I remember seeing Ajax, I remember seeing Whitby.
Yes.
I don't remember seeing Pickering. Like, maybe
you would have passed through Pickering as well. Yeah.
I don't even have a sign. They're so small. There's no sign. It's just like, don't, we're not here. It's all good.
It might not have had much. It does have a GO train station. We do have a GO train station. So,
whoa.
And so yeah, you would have passed it. It was the last GO train station before you actually reached the Toronto sign. So yeah.
Well, there was no sign for Pickerton, I can tell you that, because I was watching all the signs. I'm like, oh, good, I'm in Ajax. Woohoo! I don't know where that is, but that's so cool. You know, how far am I from Toronto? I don't know, but that's cool. You know, but no, I did not see picture. And I went back on the train to go back to Quebec. So I know there was so you should lobby for that. You need like a big sign.
I think, well, there's quite a lot of new developments coming to Pickering, so perhaps they're going to be some new signage with that as well. I'm not sure, but I'm sure they will, because they're building a casino out here, and you know,
there will be a stop on the train.
Yeah, it already has one, but they're going to probably make it a lot more flashy, I'm sure.
Wow.
They want to attract all the Toronto people to come to Pickering, I think, you know. So
you know, you've made it when you get a casino.
It's so true.
We're not there yet in Rod. We got McDonald's. I mean, McDonald's and Tim Hortons and the Subway. I mean, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine, because I lived in a small town in Canada before. I lived out in Alberta in small towns, and we didn't have McDonald's, Tim Hortons, or Subway back then. So
we didn't have it when I was growing up here, and then it came up. So like, you've arrived. You know, we're just waiting for like the next big thing. Like, I don't know, like Walmart. I don't know. I'm just saying, you know, I don't know what the next big thing will be, but I remember the day the McDonald's came in, and we were all like, "Oh my God, we've made it to the midterm." It's a McDonald's, okay? Like, calm down. But no, for us, it was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Well, you might just make it to have a co-working center before there's a Walmart in Rawdon. Just think of that.
I'm pretty sure that'll happen before Walmart comes in.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God.
It's so good to speak to you. I really enjoy our conversations, and it just goes to show how co-working helps build community. Because before, when I'm sure for you, and I know for me, when I thought that I was the inventor of co-working and I was still in my bubble, I felt quite alone in that world. I thought, like, you know, this is a new thing, and I have to talk about it, and I have to understand it. How does it work, and how can I develop it? And then I started researching and doing things on Google and finding out about these organizations. But what really helped me a lot with co-working is when I started co-working with people like yourself and started connecting with people. And that's exactly the spirit and the beauty that co-working brings us, when we can connect with others that have similar interests, and it's not a competitive nature, but it's a collaborative and supportive nature. Because as an entrepreneur, let's face it, there's not many of us around in terms of our friends and our family. And when you're talking to them all the time, they either, you know, you'll have the relative or the friend or the partner who just goes, okay, yeah, mm-hmm.
You say it one more time, I'm thinking gonna blow my brains out. But hey, that's okay. You keep going, honey. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Or like my, you know, your older generation, your parents probably thinking like, oh, that sounds nice. Why don't you just get a normal job?
A job. Just get a job. What's wrong with like?
So it's really great when you can work with like-minded people. And I think that's the wonderful thing that co-working brings us. And when we have the virtual experience or the in-person experience, we're able to bring out the value in those relationships and bring out the value in our business and just bring our business to a greater level than if we hadn't made these opportunities to have these really great connections with one another.
Absolutely. And you know what I really like about it is being able to use the other person's tools too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's great. Like I have the Zoom account, you have the idea, let's just do it together, you know?
Absolutely.
And you know, I think it's fantastic to have those types of resources because not everybody can afford to have all the tools.
That's right. That's right.
You know? But if you're working with other people in the spirit of collaboration and in that environment,
mm-hmm.
you wouldn't even think twice.
Mm-hmm.
You'd say like, hey, I've got this tool.
Mm-hmm.
How about you use it and then we'll barter for something else, or you can help me do this or help me do that, or, you know, and that is gold because the idea of competition
mm-hmm.
isn't there,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which opens so many more doors.
Yes, definitely. It's a mindset. If you open the doors, then, and you've got an open perspective, you can bring in and receive so much, just as much as you give as well. And that's really important, I think. And I'm so glad that we're doing this. And I hope we get to do some more of these chats on Facebook and just get to know our community a bit more, and for them to get to know us a bit more, and for us to bring those resources in. I'd love to do something similar to what you're doing over at Coworking Rhoda and interview people from the Durham region and give them a platform. Because for me, my business is supporting other business owners. So it's all about helping them to grow and shine and develop and do their best work. And for the whole Orange, it's all about helping people get the best out of work and life. And I just really want to be able to do that in the best way possible, whether it's virtual. It doesn't even have to be Durham, because business can be done, as we see, online. It doesn't have to just be based on a physical location.
Oh, I agree with you 110%. You know, I think one of the good things that have come out of our pandemic is that people realize the value of being online and having this type of virtual conversation like we're having. Like before this, we wouldn't have been able to do this really. We would have saw each other maybe once, twice a year. Hi, how you doing? And that would have been it. But now it's, you know, kind of forced everybody, and not just a couple of few, but everybody into a situation of, well, what's technologies out there, and how can I help others? And I think that is the core of co-working. And it's the core of what we try to do. Is my question is always, what can I do to help you?
And that's how you, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go, sorry, no problem. I was just going to keep ranting, so you go, girl.
Well, what I was going to say quickly, because you sparked something in my mind, because sometimes when I tell people co-working, they're like, oh, that's where you just like share an office. And then you see people online going, hey, I heard there's this thing called co-working. Why don't we just get an office, share it, and we'll just divvy up the rent? And I'm thinking that's a version of co-working, but it's not the type of co-working that we're doing. And I think just our conversation alone, you can understand that, well, people who are listening can understand that co-working is more than just having an office that you share. It's having a shared experience. It's having a shared reality. It's having someone that if you went over to make a coffee and you were like, oh, my client today is, you know, I'm really struggling because I'm trying to help this client. And then that person might be actually able to say to you, well, hey, I've got I know I'm an accountant. I can probably help the client on that. That business has got a referral from you, and you might have a referral for that business, and vice versa again, right? It's different than if you just go into some of these shared office spaces where everyone's just an anonymous stranger. Everyone's just in the hallway, passing each other. They may go to the communal kitchen, but there's no conversation, there's no connection, and there's no community. And I think the key thing about what we're building, I know for myself at the Whole Orange, is a community where business owners and people who just want to work locally but without being by themselves can have a chance to connect with real people in person and have meaningful connections and relationships and get results towards growing their business, whether it's their full-time business or it's their passion project that they're working on, or nonprofit as well.
Absolutely. And you know, the whole thing of support, your referrals are super important, but also support, you know, if you're having a great day, you want to share that with somebody, and you're sitting at home and you're like, yay, I'm there's nobody here, you know, and vice versa. If you're having a bad day, you don't necessarily want to share the bad day, but you would like to have someone say, hey, you don't look good. What's going on? Can I help? You know, that is gold. And you can't simulate that in a place where you're not building those types of authentic communication and relationships. Definitely. You know, that's my take on it anyway.
No, I 100% agree. And that's why when I hear about people say, you know, oh yeah, we can go down to, and everyone has different needs and different requirements. And so I'm not knocking that. But what we're building is a space where people can get that sense of community, that sense of collaboration, someone to lean on, not be alone, not be sitting in that coffee shop, not knowing who you're sitting next to and worried about you have to use the bathroom and you can't leave your laptop out. And what about when you come back, there's going to be nowhere to plug in, and you know, you get that rocky table with the one leg that keeps going. You know, we've all been there, right? Oh, yeah. So it's really great to have a place that you can come into. And you know, whenever I think about co-working, I think back to the 80s comedy I used to watch called, I'm sure you may have heard of it, called Cheers. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
It's just this idea, like, where everybody knows your name, right? Like, where you can walk in and you're at home, right? You don't have to be with everybody every minute, but you can do your thing, and you're known, you're recognized. When you have something to celebrate, you're celebrated. When you have some difficult problem that you're trying to solve, you can put your head together. And when you need an extra meeting room because you have a presentation, you don't have to scramble trying to find somewhere. You just book it. And
yeah,
now
I agree.
Virtually as well. You know, if we're doing, you know, if we end up doing virtual co-working, you can book meeting rooms through breakout rooms, or you can have these different calls where you can help each other and build on what you're doing already. So these are just some thoughts I've been having lately about that.
Absolutely. I am so with you on that. And I think when people start to see that, it changes not just them, but it actually changes the community around you, because they leave your space with the idea of, I want to work and collaborate with others. And so they have this mindset and they go out into your community, and then you start to see a change.
Yes. For sure.
And it's all about just having someone say, I'm here. There's no strings attached. There's no judgment. I'm not here for that. I'm here to support you where you are. You know, and I think for me, that comes from my nonprofit days. I learned, you know, I think until you've really been in the trench of a nonprofit type thing, you don't get it. You really don't understand what it means to stop and to put your own personal judgments aside and to really see that person, you know. And I'm talking about nonprofit because that's where I come from, but anybody in a caring type of work setting, you know, you never truly understand yourself until you've stopped and you're helping somebody where they are without judging, without trying to find that reason for that, you know, just being. It's such an enriching thing. And if I can bring that to my community and to co-working, then that's a win for me. regardless of all the money part and all that stuff. But if I can help somebody
Mm-hmm.
and I've made some type of difference in their life,
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy.
Mm-hmm. Same here. Same here. For me, it's all about helping to make a difference in the people's lives who use the space. Because for me, I'm very passionate. Like, I'm a bit of a geek about physical spaces. I have to admit, like, I love buildings, I love spaces. And for me, the idea that we create a space that is centered around people rather than people centered around a space or an institution, that is very powerful for me. And I'm very huge in terms of family advocacy. So for me, it's all about creating spaces that help work with families as opposed to work against families. So I'm hoping when the co-working space opens in Pickering that we will have a childcare element to it, where we will have support for for parents who also have parents who are needing support in some manner or way. I'm not sure what that will look like yet, but that's something I'm also keen on. So,
and that's a nice thing about co-working, right? Is it can evolve and change. It doesn't have to be static.
That's right.
And that is so exciting. That's so exciting. The core will always stay, but around it, that can be movable, and it's a powerful thing to be a part of that.
Certainly is. Well, I really enjoyed talking with you today. I always enjoy talking with you. It's a pleasure, as always. And I'm glad we did it on Facebook. And I've never done this before, so it's new for me, but I felt really comfortable. And I think partly is that talking with you. And I hope that the people who watch this get value from what we're saying and understand the spirit of co-working, the spirit of community over collaboration. And if you have any questions at all out there, just let us know. Drop us a DM. Make a comment. We are very open people, and we would love to engage with you and talk about these ideas. And if there's something you don't like about co-working or you're not sure about it, maybe you've had a bad experience, let us know. We would love to hear about that too, so we can understand where you're coming from and how we can help serve you better. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Well, thank you very much again for inviting me and allowing me to have this privilege of being your first live and to be a part of this your whole co-working thing. It's fantastic, and I love chatting with you. And you know, if you want to do more of these, I'm always open. Thank you so much, guys, on Facebook for watching us. You know, I greatly appreciate it, and hopefully, you know, we'll get some feedback from you guys, and we'll be able to do more and more great things together.
Wonderful. Thank you again, Amber. And Amber's the one who taught me how to do all this. So that's great too. She's been schooling me. So I really appreciate that, because now I feel a lot more confident. And that's what it's all about, right? So absolutely. Thanks again, and have a wonderful evening.
You too.
Stay
Bye,
safe.
everybody.